2020 and acknowledged, you guys played so nice today, acknowledged that the 2022 Cowboys will look much different from the 2021 Cowboys. Dallas has gone 11 straight playoff appearances without reaching a conference championship game, the longest drought by any team. Defensive coordinator Dan Quinn and offensive coordinator Kellen Moore will be interviewing for open head coaching jobs. The Cowboys have 21 players, including big names, set to become unrestricted free agents, and the team also has to address a difficult salary cap situation. Here's McCarthy with a shocking admission about his team leading up to Sunday's game against the Niners. Take a listen.
I thought we were nervous to start the game. Felt it in the locker room at the team prayer. Let me take the word nervous back. I mean, it was a little angst, okay? I just think that, it was the first time we were doing this as a whole.
Mike, in your meetings with the Joneses, have they given you clarity on your job security? And amid all the rumors and the gossip, can you share that clarity with us, please?
Yes, I've had a chance to, talk to Jerry, after the game for a long time. Also saw him again Monday, so we had very positive, conversation and just, the focus on the evaluation process.
Okay, my guy Dan Orlovsky back here with us. Don't let Stephen A. hate on you. I like the fit in the hair; it looks fly. But we'll
Thank
carry
you,
on. You're welcome.
I'm unaffected by him. I have Teflon for skin. Unaffected.
Yeah, I feel you. Mine's pretty thick myself. McCarthy's comments, let's get into them about being nervous. Is that more of an indictment of the players or the coaching staff, Dan?
Oh, it's the coaching staff. I mean, Mike McCarthy's a coach who's been a head coach in the NFL for 15 years. 15 years. When I hear a coach say that he feels his players are nervous, it makes me think of two things. They're unprepared and they don't trust themselves and they don't trust the people that they're going to do stuff with. I mean, when you are nervous, it means that you're not prepared for the moment. What are we doing? How confident are we in what we're doing it? That's as a player to a coach, but also players themselves. How confident are we in the things that we're going to go do, our plan, the way that we prepared, the way that we practiced, all that stuff. There's a difference between being nervous and being anxious. Like being nervous, again, is unprepared. Being nervous is wanting the moment not to come, that you want it to be as far away or as delayed as possible. Being anxious is like, let's go. I can't wait for the moment to get here. And for Mike McCarthy to come out and say that about his football team, or at least that he felt that way about his football team into the game, dude, you're a head coach for 15 years in the NFL. One of the reasons why you were hired was because of the resume, was because of your background, was because that we felt, or the Cowboys felt, that you were a guy that could get this unit to overcome some of the things that a younger coach wouldn't be able to, or a less experienced coach would not be able to. So we're talking about a head coach that, has a track record this season in at least 5 situations that he mismanaged the clock. Now he's coming out and saying he didn't think his players were prepared and that he felt it in the locker room. I just don't understand how Jerry Jones can sit there, hear those words. Like, you can't take that word back, Mike McCarthy. Words are like toothpaste. You can't shove it back into the tube. We heard you say that you felt the team was nervous. That means you didn't do your job in getting them as prepared as possible to go play in a football game.
A couple of things. I think you're wrong on that last part. I think you're being cruel. We get paid to talk on television all the time. I mean, literally professionals. I mean, when we talk about loquaciousness and what have you, just the ability to talk and articulate your points of view. We get paid to do that every day. And sometimes we turn around in mid-sentence, catch ourselves and say, okay, maybe I should say a word differently. So I kind of think it's unfair, in all seriousness, Dan, to sit up there and say when he said nervous and then he immediately said, let me take that back, and he changed it to angst. I think you could give him a pass on that. I mean, in the moment. It ain't like he came back the next day or 2 days later.
It's not in the moment, though. I mean, it's
no.
The press conference is 3 days after the game.
No. The point is, during the press conference, he's asked a question. He gives an answer. He catches himself and corrects himself. In the moment, I think that's forgivable. Now, you come back 2-3 days later like Dak Prescott did, there's some cynicism, some raising of the eyebrows that may come into play because time has passed. But when you're in the moment, you understand what I'm saying? It's not like you're a professional talker. You're a professional football coach. Sometimes you might say the wrong word here or there, and I don't think that's that big of a deal. But I'm going to get to your bigger point. I think you're letting some folks off the hook. The fact of the matter is you're right about the coaches, but it ain't just them. It's the entire franchise. It's Jerry Jones for hiring them. It's Steven and Jerry Jones Jr. for signing off on it. It's the players themselves who were caught up because, see, when you in Big D and you win games during the regular season and everybody treats it like it's a Super Bowl title instead of a regular season game, you yourself as players can get caught up. And so all of a sudden, throughout the season, when you beating up on the weak NFC least, okay, the Washington that don't have a name, all right, the New York Giants that as far as I'm concerned, it is a pathetic franchise right now. And if they smart, they'll hire Louis Riddick, by the way. That's who should be your damn GM. Pay attention, Mr. Mara, okay? And, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles, who's on the come-up, but hasn't arrived yet, really. Jalen Hurts got some growing to do and what have you, along with some other people. We'll see where they go from there. That's the NFC least. But against everybody else, you are a below-average team. So you're the Dallas Cowboy players. You get caught up, and you feeling yourself throughout the regular season, and then the moment arrives. The playoffs are here. And now all that blustering and bloviating that you were doing, feeling yourself, the moment has arrived to show up and prove and validate you are what you think you are. And they got nervous from that point. Here's what I would tell you about McCarthy that needs to be said. And I hope that Mike McCarthy is watching. Dan Orlovsky is the football aficionado. I am not. I'm just a friendly old reporter that's been covering sports for 28 years, okay? Here's the deal, and I'm dead serious about this with Mike McCarthy.
Okay.
This is the one time I sincerely hope he's listening to me. Sir, you don't get it. Yeah, y'all led the league in penalties with 127, and then you finished over 1,100 yards in penalties this year. And yeah, you finished with 141 penalties. And you got to clean that up and what have you. You know what conclusion I came to, Dan Orlovsky? Mike McCarthy still hasn't figured out why he was fired from Green Bay. It's not because of your knowledge of X's and O's. It's because, sir, with all due respect, you have a problem leading men. You have a problem getting the pulse of your team and really getting in them and getting them motivated and hyped about performing, not just their jobs, not just for themselves, but for you. That's the difference. We got too many coaches out here that think because they can go to film or because they can go to the board like Dan Orlovsky and dissect and break down plays, that makes you qualified to be a coach. There's a lot of people in football that know football. The difference is, are you a leader of men? Can you galvanize them in such a way that forces them to maximize whatever ability and potential they have? For numerous years in Mike McCarthy's career, even though he's a Super Bowl champion from a decade ago, in numerous years, you have come up short. You did go to 4 other NFC championship games. We know you know football. I have no questions about Mike McCarthy's football knowledge. My problem is I don't think he has the pulse of his players.
Dan, I want to go back to something that you said because I think it holds a lot of weight in Stephen A. and sort of challenge you. When Dan said that, I thought we were nervous to start the game, right? When Mike McCarthy said that, he said, I thought we were nervous to start the game. I just think it was the first time we were doing this as a whole. And when we look at not knowing the rule at the end of the game, the most penalized team, Stephen A., I think that goes back to what Dan saying, where they were not prepared.
Yes.
I don't think that he was misspeaking there, whether you're saying anxiety or whatever word he's using. I think he was saying we were not, we didn't
They were clearly ill-prepared. They were clearly ill-prepared for that last play. I'm not challenging that.
But that's the problem.
What I'm challenging is that him correcting himself from saying nervous to angst within the same sentence.
But forget that. Take that out of it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not disagreeing with the other
But
part.
I'm just thinking about what he said.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with it.
But then that puts the onus on the coaches.
Exactly.
Like Molly is saying, whatever way you want to categorize it, angst or nervous.
Yep.
When it comes to sports, there's a difference between being nervous or angst and being anxious. And what happens is when you are a person who's nervous for the event, when it comes to sports, it means you're not ready for the moment. It means that you are not prepared. It means as a player that you're not trusting whatever led up until that point. The preparation that happened through the week. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust the people that are around you. So for the coach to come out who's completely responsible for getting his football team ready for the moment. And here's my thing, Stephen A., when he says, well, it's the first time we're doing it as a whole. It's the first time the Cincinnati Bengals are doing it.
Exactly. And again, one last thing, Stephen A. It's 3 days later, so he had time to think about what his messaging is going to be.
And you had to anticipate you're going to get that question.
Conference.
Yeah, you're going to get asked by somebody. Why did you guys? I mean, this is a team that had. Yes.
My point is this: you go on TV every single week and dissect the positives and negatives about teams. Every single week, you can point to a coach that might have missed something. Mike McCarthy clearly missed a few things this past Sunday. No one is disputing that. The bigger issue, however, is that this guy doesn't have the pulse of his team. And he hasn't for years. In Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers as his coach, particularly the last 2 years, even though Aaron Rodgers wasn't 100% healthy, and certainly now with the Cowboys.
Forget the pulse. It's about preparation.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Stephen A.,
I'm just saying we can say that about a lot of coaches. Dan officially has said about a lot of coaches.
Not a lot of coaches that, Stephen A., I'll agree with your final point of the leadership of men, but you can't say that about a lot of coaches that, one, were hired after you fired a coach that wasn't good enough anymore, that you hired a coach to take your team to the next level, and two, guys in the playoffs. We're not saying that about a lot of teams in the playoffs, that they weren't ready, even though they were first time together and all that stuff. You
got Dan Quinn running the defense. You got Kellen Moore running the offense. He's a figurehead, for crying out loud. We've looked at him that way. We've wondered publicly, what the hell does Mike McCarthy do? We've wondered.
But here's what I'm struggling to understand your point, Stephen A. You seem to just brush it under the rug that, yes, he was off a little bit this weekend, and it doesn't matter. It was one and done. We can't say.
I'm not trying to.
We can't say and go after Cliff Kingsbury a little bit for the way that his football team played and say, well, you weren't ready for it and you looked overwhelmed, and then just say, well, Mike McCarthy, he was off a little bit. We can't do that. That's not being fair both to Cliff Kingsbury.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, we'll move on here, guys, but great conversation. You know, Dan, I told you Matthew Stafford was going to get the job done. When will you finally listen? The LA Rams in hopes of continuing his pursuit to his first ever Super Bowl to face the Bucs, where Tom will be looking for his unprecedented 8th ring. The Rams are 2-0 against the Bucs since Brady joined the team, taking his talents to Florida. In those two matchups, he has 3 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, and was sacked 4 times. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers also play an aggressive style of defense under Todd Bowles, blitzing about 41% of the time. They set an extra rusher 45 more times than any other team in the NFL. However, Stafford is the best player in the NFL against the blitz this season. This is going to be a fun matchup for sure. Here's Sean McVay.
I think it's tremendous respect, but not fear. As a competitor, you know, he is a great, phenomenal player. We have tremendous respect for him, but we're going to have the expectation and anticipation that we're preparing to try to go win this game. And so we know what a great challenge it's going to be. We've got to have a great week of work and then go play to the best of our ability and let the chips fall where they may.
Interesting note there. McVay does not fear Brady, yet he respects him. So who has the edge in this game, the Rams or the Bucs, Stephen A?
To me, it's the Bucs. I'm not sold on the Rams as of yet. I know they have talent. I believe in Jalen Ramsey. I believe in Aaron Donald. I see Von Miller's getting his sacks. That's a beautiful thing to see. We can't underestimate that. We all know that Tom Brady, for the most part, is a stationary target, but we also know he's a savant. He's absolutely brilliant, and he knows how to pick defenses apart. We'll see what happens there. I don't like the fact that Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin are gone, but you got Gronk. You got Cameron Brate. You've got, Mike Evans as well. And when you look at it from that perspective, and you look at a guy like Giovanni Bernard, for example, that can run the football. When you look at Keyshawn Vaughn, who can run the football a little bit, I don't know when Leonard Fournette would be back. Who knows? But at the end of the day, that experience, the way the Tampa Bay defense played for those first 3 quarters, and the way we see Matthew Stafford, because as Dan Orlovsky said, he has such a profound belief in himself, his willingness to roll the dice and take chances. Sometimes you can beat yourself. So when I look at the Rams versus the Bucs, I not only take all of those things into consideration, Dan, what I come to is this: who's the dude who can remain most disciplined and not beat themselves by being a bit risque and taking unnecessary chances? Who could shoot themselves in the foot, figuratively speaking? Yeah. That would happen to be Matthew Stafford. And that's why I think that when you talk about going up against Tom Brady in a playoff game, I would roll with Tom Brady for this one.
Yeah, so I think the Rams have a distinct edge in this football game. I think your point at the end when it comes to Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady is 100% fair, obviously. I think the Rams have an edge mainly because of health. I mean, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team has been dealing with injuries all season long. And the fact that we you know, Chris Godwin out there, AB, Tristan Wirfs, like I feel if Tristan Wirfs doesn't play this football game could get ugly. Candidly, if you go back to when these two teams met, I think week 4 or week 5, this was the most pressure that Tom Brady was under all season long. That was with Tristan Wirfs and without Von Miller for the Los Angeles Rams. So we're talking about the addition of an elite pass rusher who's playing really good football, and then one of the best right tackles in all of football. That is a massive switch right there. I think for the Rams defense, you know, when you're playing against Tom and understanding that at least 3 offensive starters are going to be missing from this football team in comparison to when they first played, and potentially not Leonard Fournette, that is a huge advantage for this defense. A huge advantage that can sit there and say, well, we've got Jalen Ramsey that can slow down Mike Evans and Gronk, maybe a little bit of both, either or. And now we've got this elite pass rush unit that can absolutely get after Tom Brady. And I can promise everybody at home, Tom Brady's not going to lose this game because he's going to take sacks. Tom Brady's never lost games because he takes sacks. This game is going to come down to, if Tristan Wirfs doesn't play, how well the Rams defense tackles when the ball is getting out of Brady's hands. Now, when it goes to the other side of the football and the Buccaneers defense versus the Rams offense, I'll tell you this, the game that we just saw on Monday night in the wild card round, that's the best game I've seen Matthew Stafford play in 5 years, maybe longer. There was not a single snap where he put the ball in a careless fashion. If that happens again, and I'm banking on it does, and I'm expecting that it does, if that happens again, the Rams are going to win this football game comfortably, specifically if Tristan Wirfs does not play. I'm that confident in this team. They've got a very good plan for how they want to attack Tampa Bay. Molly pointed out the pressure defensively. If you go back, because you mentioned the first 3 quarters against Philly, Stephen A., like you go back and watch that game, there's throws there. Jalen Hurts just didn't have them. He just didn't make them.
He just didn't make them.
There's throws there,
Yeah,
and I promise you number 9 will make those.
Well, let me say this to you. I totally forgot about Tristan Wirfs because I was watching that Eagles-Bucs game, and I remember when he hurt his ankle, he came back in. I don't know why he even tried to come back in, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Because he got ran right over because, I mean, he was just too hurt. And I would tell you that if we look at the history of Tom Brady, particularly in Super Bowls, the last good moments the New York Giants have had, why'd you win those Super Bowls over the New England? Why you win those Super Bowls over the New England Patriots? Because you had pressure and you were able to apply pressure. And even though we rave about the New Orleans Saints defense, particularly when it plays against Tom Brady, although you've got cats like Lattimore and others in your secondary, why were you able to really, really run roughshod over Tom Brady in the regular season? Because of your front 4. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and I'm thinking about the Rams, if you have an ability to get to Tom Brady, particularly because he's compromised by Wirfs' injury at that right tackle spot, that could spell doom for Brady. I will admit that, because that not only compromises your pass protection, it also compromises the effectiveness of your running game
and
as
Wirfs
well.
is amazing.
That could be a problem.
Looks like you're both leaning towards the Rams. One last thing I'll say, Dan, to your point, when Matthew Stafford takes care of the football, when he doesn't throw a pick, this team's 7-0 this season. So obviously that'll be critical.
Molly. I like that, Molly.
I'm trying to keep up with you, UConn.
He's emotional.
Come on, 9.
He's rooting. He's
Let's
rooting
go.
for Stafford.
Okay.
I don't shy away from it, Stephen A. I don't shy away from it.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it
he's
rolling
your
here,
boy.
fellas. Coming up, sure is. The Bills and the Chiefs face off this weekend, so would there be... Well, if you like The Godfather like me, you know they say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I prefer Frank Sinatra's take. The best revenge is massive success, like confetti falling, hoisting a Lombardi in a big diamond-studded ring. Well, that's what Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills are gunning for. But first, they need to get past Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Bills are heading to Arrowhead Stadium again, and this time they hope to return the favor after losing the 2020 AFC Championship game. Despite that, Josh Allen has tremendous respect for his opponent.
They are the mecca of what the AFC, or of the AFC, and that's the team that everybody wants to aspire to be in 3 AFC championships in a row and be in two Super Bowls in a row. So that's the type of level that we want to be, and in order to be the best, you got to beat the best. And they've really been, one of the, if not the best team in the last 4 years. And again, we've got a good opportunity here, and we're excited for it.
Dan, I cannot wait for this game. To be the best, you got to beat the best. So tell me this, what would a win Sunday over Mahomes mean for Josh Allen?
Going into next year, he's the guy to beat. In the AFC, that you got to go through Josh Allen, that he would sit at the top of the throne and that you got to go through Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. He would be the guy to beat. Now, I'm not saying that I think he's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. I think that's a conversation. But Josh Allen would be the guy that you got to go chase down. The way that he beat you guys down in week 3 or week 4, and then if he takes you down in the playoffs, then Josh Allen's the guy to go get. Think about this football team right now, Molly, just with Josh Allen at the quarterback. In the last 2 years, they're the second best offense in all of football. They're only behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They just put a 50-burger on the #1 defense in football in New England. Easily. Like, easily. This wasn't a 4-quarter game that was 50-44. They could have scored 65 if they wanted to. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in the last 2 seasons have scored 125 touchdowns. Josh Allen is responsible for 100 of them, either throwing or running. That's 80% of their offense. He has become one of the most unstoppable players in all of football. And if they go down to Kansas City this weekend and they beat Kansas City, now we all point and say, Josh Allen is the guy that you have to go beat if you are in the NFC to get back to the Super Bowl. He's earned that. Patrick was that for a couple years. And if he wins this weekend, he continues to sit on the top of the throne. But if Josh Allen goes down there and leads the Bills down against the Chiefs and they win, then Josh Allen's the guy to beat for the AFC.
Well, how do we know that definitively? I mean, the fact of the matter is that Josh Allen has already lost to Patrick Mahomes. He lost to Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game last year. So if he gets the better of him this year, all right, okay, now we got a rivalry that's going on, but I don't know if it definitively is defined as, you're the guy to beat. I think to me, when I think about the possibility of Josh Allen beating Patrick Mahomes, well, what does it mean? I'll tell you what it means. It means he's going to the Super Bowl. Because I think the winner of this game is representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. That's what I think. I think that Tennessee or Cincinnati falls to the winner of this game. That's just how I view it. I'm not saying Tennessee will be an easy out. And Cincinnati, obviously, with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, stud as well. We can't ignore any of them, all right? But in the end, I think the winner of this game represents the AFC in the Super Bowl at SoFi. That's what I think. We willing to peel that from there, but then we got to see how they perform. And that's what I'm looking at it as that. So Patrick Mahomes, we think Patrick Mahomes is a stud, and we should because he won a Super Bowl championship. He won a league MVP, okay? Not only did he do both of those things, he went to back-to-back Super Bowls as well. That's how we're looking at him. And and obviously, even though every playoff game was at home, he hasn't lost it. He lost the Super Bowl, but he hasn't lost to the playoffs. So I just look at them other than, they did lose to Tom Brady. I apologize. They lost to Tom Brady 3 years ago. I'm just saying, Josh Allen to me, it would mean, you've arrived. Y'all going to the Super Bowl. We'll see what you do. I don't know if that elevates him against Patrick Mahomes and makes him the quarterback to beat instead of Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, so a couple things. I literally just told you that they're the second best offense in football outside the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's accounted for more touchdowns for his football team than anybody over the last 2 years.
Why are you looking up, Elvis? Why are you looking up?
I'm going to get you. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
This is bedhead.
No, I'm just saying you were looking up.
Here's my thing.
He's looking at the video. Let him live.
Yeah. I'm just recounting the multiple points I made against you that you ignored conveniently.
I do tend to do that.
So this past offseason, the whole question was, who is the best team or who is the likeliest team to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs? And a lot of us said, well, the Buffalo Bills or maybe the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. If Josh Allen, for the second time in a row, goes and beats the Kansas City Chiefs, then he would be the team to beat. And we will go into next season saying who is best equipped to most likely knock off the Buffalo Bills to get back to the Super Bowl. And we'll say the Kansas City Chiefs. But if Josh Allen does it, Stephen A., it's not just whether going to the Super Bowl. He becomes the quarterback to beat in the AFC. I loved Peyton Manning growing up, and I loved Tom Brady growing up. They were my two favorite quarterbacks when I was in my teen years. But it was always, as much as I loved Peyton and as much as I thought he was incredible, you got to go beat Tom Brady. Whether I think you're a better quarterback or not, you got to go beat Tom Brady. That becomes the conversation here if Josh Allen does it again.
Okay. What I'm saying to you is this. When we talked about Buffalo, if you remember, we talked about their defense. We talked about how big time that defense was. See, to me, it's not just about the outcome. It's how you perform. I've seen it, like, for example, let's say, the
You're
Buffalo
a piece of work, man.
No. Let's say, for example, seriously, I'm being serious here. Let's say, for example, that Buffalo goes in the Kansas City. Now, I don't anticipate this happening. You don't anticipate this happening. But what if Buffalo goes into Kansas City and neither offense can do anything? But Buffalo's defense all of a sudden raises its game and completely neutralizes Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And Josh Allen resembles Jimmy G and from the playoffs with the Super Bowl year where he ain't had to do anything but hand the damn ball off, and San Francisco's defense took him to the Super Bowl. What I'm saying is how you perform matters. If Josh Allen performs big time and that's the reason Buffalo wins, you got a point. If Josh Allen doesn't perform big time, well, then that's a different narrative. And I think we got to pay attention to that because we already know what Patrick Mahomes can do. We think we know what Josh Allen could do. We believe in him. But in the same breath, the resume doesn't quite compare to Patrick Mahomes just yet.
Well, the resume when it comes to postseason success,
Yes,
I'll give you that.
That's what I'm talking about. We're talking about the postseason.
I'll
That's
give
what
you
we're
that.
talking about.
But he's only had the singular opportunity. And granted, Patrick performed better last postseason versus Josh Allen than Josh Allen did versus Patrick. But if the Buffalo Bills defense comes and plays well, that's not going to come out of nowhere. It's the top two defense in the NFL. So I think your point is it's fine. But at the end of the day, Stephen A., bottom line is this: whether it's a dominant offensive performance or an average offensive performance, this game is more than likely going to come down to what quarterback makes a little bit more plays. Whether it's throwing the football, run. Go back to when they played week 4, like Kansas City could not do anything offensively outside of Patrick's legs. So if Patrick has a ton of success running the football again, that's going to be huge. I'm just telling you this. If I have to, I'm going to come on television at some point in April or May after the playoffs happen. And if Buffalo goes down to Kansas City and beats this game, I'm going to be asked, or beats the Chiefs, I'm going to be asked, Dan, who's best equipped to go knock off Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills? And I'm going to say Patrick Mahomes. And that's the way that the question should be phrased if Buffalo goes down there and wins.
The narrative will change. No, I hear what you're saying. I need a yes or no answer here because we're up against it. But tell me this. Do you think this game is going to be close?
If the Kansas City Chiefs have some slow play like they do, I do not think this game's close. I think Buffalo wins.
Interesting.
It's going to be close.
Interesting.
It was nothing. The Pittsburgh Steelers game was nothing with 6 minutes to go in the second quarter last week.
Yeah.
That's right.
They went the whole second half against Cincinnati and scored 3 points. Yeah. They barely had success against Denver. There's moments where Kansas City's offense goes quiet. That cannot happen this weekend.
Stephen A., you heard Dan. Your point was fine. It's just fine.
I'll take that from him.
When we come back here on First Take, step your game up next time. It in controversial fashion last night when Nets assistant David Vanderpool deflected a pass during the fourth quarter with his team leading 109-103 at the time. The interference got a turnover on the play, and the Nets ended up winning by 1 point after the game. Wizards acting head coach Joseph Blair said he was in utter disbelief. The refs missed that call. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving dropped 30 points in 38 minutes in the win and said he's embracing the pressure that comes during Kevin Durant's absence.
I love pressure. I think it brings out the best in me personally. And then also I'm able to carry that energy with the team, whether it be communicating with guys in short conversations on the floor or off the floor.
Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time moments, Stephen A. Can the Nets count on part-time Kyrie?
No, they cannot. You can count on Kyrie Irving on the court to be his spectacular self. As I've stated on several occasions, and I'll reiterate this again, Kyrie Irving is a superstar, one of the most gifted guards we have ever seen in the history of basketball. I believe he's worth, in today's NBA economy, he is worth $50 million a year. Easy. He's that spectacular, and I think he's box office, and you should walk through the turnstiles to see him. I would never give him a long-term deal again in his career because you cannot trust him to show up to work. That is the issue. Kyrie Irving, when he show up, literally this is how you have to treat Kyrie Irving. When we talk about directly in response to your question about trust, and can you depend on Kyrie Irving? You know when you can depend on Kyrie Irving? When you look at the loading dock area and you see the bus pull up and you see him get off of it. Because it's suspense whether he's going to be on the bus. You just don't know. He might show up on the bus. He might not. He might be sick. He might be injured. He might be emotionally preoccupied. Something else is on his mind. basketball's not that important. Forget the fans walking through the turnstiles that pay their hard-earned money that want entertainment, and they see you. I'm not just an entertainer. I'm not just a basketball player. I'm so much more than that. You know, you peons, you just don't get that. You understand? So these are all words that have come out of his mouth, mind you. These are all words that have come out of his mouth. And I'm not going to let go. I understand in the aftermath of the George Floyd killing, the murder of George Floyd and whatever, I understand all of that. We were all a part of it. Tens or hundreds of millions of people were going through the same thing. They showed up to work. Kyrie Irving did it. Kyrie Irving needed a break. Before that, Kyrie Irving didn't want dudes to play in the bubble. Didn't want them to play in the bubble. After 10 months off, 10 months, he comes back. Season starts on December 22nd. After the bubble, 2 weeks in, I'm emotionally preoccupied. I need a break. Just disappeared. Nimon didn't care that everybody else was there and that people spent their hard-earned money to come and see his greatness. He doesn't care. He cares about what he cares about. And it ebbs and flows. Some days he's cool, some days he's not. So the point is, the operative word there is depend. You can depend on Kyrie Irving when you see that brother get off the bus or out of his car and he shows up and puts on the uniform. You can depend on Kyrie Irving. But before then, you got to look at that bus. Is he on it? Is he going to get off of it? I mean, is he going to play? That's the issue with Kyrie Irving, and that's why you have to take it on a case-by-case, day-to-day basis. The brother is spectacular. He's a superstar. He is not reliable. You can't trust him to show up to work because some days he believes that work is beneath him. That's just a fact, and he has said so. And
we'll leave it there.
And I'll leave it at that.
Last night he did put in work, though. And the Nets are third in the East behind the young Bulls and the East.
And I knew he was going to put in that work the second I saw him get off the bus. Okay. I saw him get off the bus. I said, oh, he's going to put work in against the Wizards. He got off the bus. He showed up to work.
Okay,
Congratulations.
Let's go to Bucs.
Congratulations.
Russell Westbrook's LA tenure has been less than stellar, but was last night's benching a sign that this is the end for him as a star player? Plus, the Titans could be getting Derrick Henry back just in the nick of time. Since then, living up to the purple and gold standards, just ask Magic. During last night's loss to the Indiana Pacers, Coach Frank Vogel benched Russell Westbrook for the last 352 of the game. Westbrook was under 30% beyond the arc. Here's Vogel.
Frank, you opted to go with Russ on the bench at the end of the game. What were you looking for there? What was the thinking behind that choice?
Yeah, playing the guys I thought were going to win the game.
How was Russ after the game? Is that the sort of thing that bothers him?
Have you followed Russ throughout his career?
Not as closely as you have, probably.
Okay. Have you followed Russ throughout this season? Yeah. Would you think that would bother Russ not being in the late game?
What had happened was, meanwhile, our Dave McMenamin is reporting that Lakers management told the coaching staff to coach Westbrook as they see fit, even if that means pulling him from the game. Jay, I'll start with you. Is Westbrook most to blame for the Lakers' struggles?
No. Now, look, there are two people that would be scapegoats here.
Okay.
I think Russ is one of them. Does his game fit in with LeBron James and with the cast of characters that they have assembled? No, it does not. That play last night where he got benched, he didn't give effort on the defensive end. Okay, but I'm not going to allow Russell Westbrook to be a scapegoat. He didn't bring himself to L.A. L.A. went and they got him. Frank Vogel, he's another scapegoat. This was a defensive-minded team 15 months ago when they won their first NBA championship. They changed personnel. He's now trying to make this new cast of characters, which is an older group, by the way, DeAndre Jordan, Kent Bazemore, Wayne Ellington, Kendrick Nunn, who's been injured, Trevor Ariza injured, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo,
oldest team in the NBA.
Oldest team in the NBA. He's trying to make them a defensive-minded team when that's not how they're actually built. I get so frustrated when we end up doubling down on Russell Westbrook or Frank Vogel. This is an organizational issue. There is not one damn voice, Stephen A. Who is making the right decisions here? Rob Pelinka and company, is that Rob Pelinka? Is that Rich Paul, LeBron James, Jenny Buss, Kurt Rambis, who's now sitting in coaches' meetings?
What is going on? Why is there not one voice? Because Rob Pelinka and company are the ones that put together this cast of characters that you're asking now, can it work? You need shooting around these guys. When you can't provide that around the style in which they play, of course they're going to struggle. And they're horrible defensively.
This is a strange segment to start off the show. Because I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. But I have a different perspective. And I want to throw this by you and listen to me break this down. I don't think it's Russell Westbrook's fault. Russell Westbrook is who he is. Frank Vogel is the head coach. I do have a problem with you being like 18th in defensive efficiency and 27th overall in points allowed per game because you're a head coach because of your defensive prowess. In other words, even though we look at the personnel and we know you don't have it, the objective of a coach is to figure it out because that's why you have the job.
Understood.
You know that's why you have the job. We understand that, okay? So I can't completely absolve Frank Vogel while I'm not blaming him because I understand that the roster is old and I get that they're not built to be a defensive-minded team. You have to figure out a way for them to be better than 27th in points allowed and 18th in defense. You got to figure that out, Frank Vogel. Okay, now, here's where I tell you that although I'm not pointing a finger at Russ, if you Russell Westbrook, it's not a character issue. His effort is always there. He never cheats the game. Let's understand that. But having said all of that, if you're Russell Westbrook, I'm going to repeat something I said months ago. These are your teammates. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, Victor Oladipo, Paul George, James Harden again, Bradley Beal, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. And you don't have one single title to show for it. It's a legacy question because obviously this is the first season with LeBron and AD, and it's not over yet. And we get that even though we don't see them winning the championship. What I'm saying is if you're Russell Westbrook, at some moment in time, you got to look at things through those lenses. Because, bless you, because when we talk about the game of basketball, which obviously you are more than qualified to talk as far as I'm concerned, national champion, player of the year in college at Duke. You understand you don't get injured in the damn accident. You kicking behind in the NBA as far as I'm concerned. You're qualified. What I'm saying is when we talk about basketball, in the end, how you not going to look at all of that? I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about in general.
I understand.
Think about it because this ain't football now, where you Tom Brady, you play offense, but you don't play defense, you don't play special teams. If you got 2 or 3 big-time players in basketball, you are formidable. You are in the picture. And somewhere, at some point in time, you're supposed to come over the hump. You're supposed to get over the hump. We are now at a point in time where Russell Westbrook, the only reason we would say he ain't getting traded is because of his salary. That the Lakers would give him away. We're wondering, he ain't even an all-star this year. He ain't going to an all-star game this year. Think about that for a second. It's Russell Westbrook we talking about here. He's not even an all-star this year. And so when we look at it from that perspective, and we're looking at the players he played against, at some point in time, everybody's going to look at that. Because you see, with LeBron, when you sit there and you see him being, and I don't mind Russell Westbrook not talking to the media last night. I totally understand.
LeBron did it a couple nights ago with them.
But I totally understand because Russell Westbrook got benched. What you think he gonna say if he was up at that microphone?
Nothing possible.
It would have been bad.
Yes.
So I get all of that. I understand to me, it would have been good for him to go up there, but I totally understand him not going up there. But in the end, we're going to get to a point, if we're not there already, where we're seeing all these guys you played with, and not one championship to show for it, and now you're struggling, and people are going to look at him, man, and he's got to accept that.
I understand that. I just hate how that's becoming the narrative for him, especially this year.
Okay.
Because you look at that game when they came back against Utah. Do you know who was the squad on the court that came back against Utah when they were down double digits? Austin Reeves, Stanley Johnson, Malik Monk, Taylor Horton-Tucker, and LeBron James at the 5.
Right.
Shooting, Stephen A.
I agree.
Shooting around him. So the personnel that Rob Pelinka and company put him with, it doesn't mesh
That's
well.
fair, Jay. But here's the flip side, because we got to be honest here. We know, and I don't say I'm not going to say pighead. I'm not going to say because I'm not trying to
style of play.
I'm not trying to attach a negative connotation to it. But Russ is strong-willed. Russ believes in Russ. I was in Houston one time when he was being interviewed, and they talked to him about D'Antoni. He was like, I'm going to play the way that I play. Okay? You know, when he was in Washington, he said, I'm going to play the way that I play. When he was in Oklahoma City, he said, I'm going to play the way that I play. When he arrived in L.A., he said, I'm going to play the way that I play. And what we all been saying is perimeter shooting is an issue. And over the last 3 or 4 years, you've been shooting in the mid-60s from the free throw line. We're watching teams go against Russell Westbrook and literally back up and say, go ahead and shoot. Go ahead and shoot. Now, it's not quite Ben Simmons where you run away and run into the paint and say what we're thinking, but they are backing off of Russell Westbrook, daring him to shoot a perimeter shot. I understand what you're saying about style of play and how this is what it is. But when do you as the player go like this? I really got to get in the gym and work on my
I agree
J.
with you on this.
I got to work on my J because I got to shoot better.
You follow a lot of basketball. This has always been who Russ is.
Yeah. So that's why we're
Why
talking
is it
about
even trying to mesh together with the Lakers? That's why I don't understand.
That's LeBron.
We understand who
LeBron.
Russ is. This is who he's always been. Now we're all of a sudden going to expect Russ to be somebody different.
Right. But you know what happened, right? They had a chance to get DeMar DeRozan. They had a chance to get Buddy Hield. Russell Westbrook goes to LeBron. I want to be here. LeBron signs off on it, gets AD to sign off on it. They get Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka to sign off on it. That's how he ends up in L.A. And what I'm saying is LeBron's a basketball savant. Champion wherever he's going, 4-time champion, 10 trips to the NBA Finals. He's a basketball savant. So you know more basketball than any of us. I wouldn't challenge LeBron James basketball. Why'd you do it?
That's why I said who's running the organization.
Okay.
Is there one voice?
Okay.
All right. We'll dive into that a little later. Also, the Nets, talk about your boy Kyrie. Jay Will, thank you so much for being with us. Dismissed for now. Mike McCarthy signed a 5-year way. We've made it to the divisional round. Best weekend of the NFL season. But which of the remaining teams is under the most pressure to win the Super Bowl? Plus, Joel Embiid had a monster night, scoring 50 points in 27 minutes. But are Daryl Morey and the Sixers wasting his prime? All that and much more coming up. But first, the Lakers are one of the most storied franchises in sports. And despite a star-studded roster, this squad not living up to the hype. Just ask Magic Johnson. During their recent loss to the Indiana Pacers, Coach Frank Vogel benched Russell Westbrook for the last 3:52 of the game. Westbrook was under 30% from beyond the arc. Here's Vogel, who has been taking some heat of late on why he played the players he did.
Frank, you opted to go with Russ on the bench at the end of the game. What were you looking for there? What was the thinking behind that choice?
Yeah, playing the guys I thought were going to win the game.
How was Russ after the game? Is that the sort of thing that bothers him?
Have you followed Russ throughout his career?
Not as closely as you have, probably.
Okay. Have you followed Russ throughout this season? Yeah. Would you think that would bother Russ not being in the late game?
Sometimes you gotta flip it on folks, right, Monica?
Ooh, that's a rhetorical.
It is so good to see you. Last time we were on the floor with Santa Perk for story time.
Y'all so tight. Molly rocked the white boots the other day. You rocking it
No,
now.
these are off-white and hers are fire, and they have the clear heel.
Yes.
No,
Don't do that,
the whole
Stephen A.
fit. When you live out here in New York, you know a thing or two about fashion.
Step out.
I want to start with you on this one, Stephen A. And real talk here. Could this be the end of Russ as we know him, Russ the superstar?
It could be. He just hasn't been that impressive. Weeks ago, I heard him loud and clear when he alluded to the coaches. And he said, they got me all over the place. They tell me one thing and then they tell me another. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote. But that's along the lines of what he was saying. So that gave an indication that they weren't on the same page. What really alarmed me last night, I said, hey, he hit 4 of his 6 three-point shots. That's an aberration because he's shooting 30% from three-point range. Okay? Even though he shot 5 of 17 from the field overall. He's averaging over 4 turnovers a game. That's not great. But here's the thing that really stood out for me, Monica. I'm watching it, and everybody was making a big deal about Karis LeVert blowing by him for that one play that ultimately led to him getting yanked and benched for, pretty much the remainder of the game. And then you read the story on ESPN.com, and it says the scouting report specifically said keep him off his right hand. He wants to use his right hand and drive to the basket. Whatever you do, don't let him do that. Make him go to his left hand. And he obviously didn't do that. LeVert drives right by him and scores a basket, and that was a problem. So we get all of that. My bigger issue is this. If you read between the lines, so the coaching staff went to management. Management gave them the okay to do what you got to do. If you feel the need to bench Russ, you feel the need to bench Russ. That means it was something they were contemplating for weeks. It means it's something that's been incredibly alarming to them. And what it says to me is they don't think they can reach him any other way. Now, if you're Russell Westbrook, because the dude is strong-willed, firm belief in himself, does things his way, et cetera, I'll tell you what I said to Jay Williams at the start of the show, Monica.
Okay.
Russell Westbrook, at the end of the day, has to start thinking legacy. Going to the Hall of Fame. We ain't doubting that. Kevin Durant was your teammate. James Harden, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, Victor Oladipo, Paul George, James Harden again, Bradley Beal, and now LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And I forgot Carmelo Anthony because he was in Oklahoma City with you. If you end your career with 0 championships, with all of those dudes as your teammates, that's a damn problem. And no one is going to deny that. You can't, with Russell Westbrook, you can't just look at this Lakers team. No one's going to do that when it comes to him.
Right.
We might look at the Lakers, but when it comes to him, you're going to take into account all the opportunities that he had based on all the support he had and how it didn't pan out to you winning the chip. And that is ultimately what people are going to associate him with if stuff don't change.
The only way that we qualify success in this league is by championships. And so I agree with you there. The one pushback that I have for some of the heat that Russell Westbrook has earned to this point in this season is he is exactly who we thought he was. And to your point, does that mean he now needs to shift at this point in his career, or do the Lakers need to do a better job of acknowledging who he is? Everybody's up and down about his turnovers. He averages 4.2 on his career. At 4.1, excuse me. He's averaging 4.2 with the Lakers. And so this is not new behavior, right? The defensive plays last night, those were glaring. I agree with you, because if anything, you can bank on Russ bringing the energy and the intensity, and he did not show up in that moment.
Never cheats with effort.
Right.
Never. Yeah.
Right. But I also, and this may not be fair, Stephen A., and I mean this from the most respectful place, but heavy is the head that wears the crown. And to me, as much as we have talked about LeBron James and the numbers that he's putting up at this point in his career and his entire body of work, we have also heard a lot about him as a leader, right? And so if there was anybody in the league, and I understand Russ may be set in his ways, he may be stubborn, he is a ball of fire, hard to contain, but if there was anybody in the league, in my mind, that was poised to get through to him, whether it's LeBron, Vogel, Russ, behind closed doors, private conversations, if ever there was a superstar that I thought could do it, it would be LeBron James. And so to me, I'm with you in that conversation or that press conference a couple weeks back when he said, I'm not quite sure of my role, and kind of laughed. That was alarming, because you can't bring a guy with his energy and just say go.
Well, let me say this to you. Here's where I would alter. I don't want to say disagree, but I would give you a different perspective in this regard. LeBron James has to be held accountable for Russell Westbrook being in L.A.
That part?
Because you had an opportunity to get DeMar DeRozan. He wanted to come to L.A. Buddy Hield wanted to come to L.A. Russell Westbrook went to LeBron like, yo, man, I want to be here. So LeBron got AD to buy in, supposedly. They go to Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka. This is what we want to do. And if you Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka, how you going to say no to LeBron James and Anthony Davis?
You don't.
You don't say no to them. You say yes to them.
Absolutely.
And so as a result of that, there's accountability there, not to mention, LeBron is not a good basketball player. He's an all-time great. I think top 2, top 3. He's on a Mount Rushmore. Not to mention the fact he's a champion wherever he's going, Cleveland, Miami, L.A. Not to mention the fact that he's been to 10 NBA Finals. And, oh, by the way, we don't call him a good basketball mind. we say brilliant. LeBron James is a basketball savant. He knows more than me and you and practically
100%.
a lot of people combined. He's that brilliant. So knowing the game the way that you do and embracing Russell Westbrook, one would ask why, or what are you going to do about whatever flaws he might have? But we also can't escape the fact that Russell Westbrook has some culpability because Russell Westbrook is considered strong-willed in Oklahoma City, in Houston, in Washington, and now in LA. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and remember, he's on the record last year, and I think this is the worst quote he ever gave, but I have an obligation to reiterate it. He said publicly, championships don't mean nothing to me. I see plenty of champions who are less happier than me.
I mean, why go to LA? Obviously,
now, in fairness to him, I don't believe that. I think he was frustrated in the moment and just said that. And I also know that brother goes out there and strives to win every single night. But the point is, you said it. And as a result of that, combined with the willpower, the stubbornness, people going to look at all of those things.
All right, we'll leave it there. Lakers have lost 4 of 5, and Russ has scored less than 20 in 7 straight. Monica will be back with us. I'll tell you what we'll be discussing in just a second. But how about some football? Pressure can burst pipes or create diamonds. But with the Super Bowl under a month away, which remaining team is in the biggest pressure cooker to win it all?
Season is different and unique in its own way. This is a special opportunity. We're not going to make it bigger than it is, but I understand that in our business, so much of it is focused on the wins and losses, especially in the playoffs, Super Bowl rings and all that stuff. I understand that's part of my legacy. I'll be judged on when I'm done playing, and every year is important when it comes to furthering your legacy.
Time's a ticking, and he's aware that bad man feeling the pressure, but he's not the only one who's thinking about SoFi. Dan, out of all the teams left in the playoffs, who's under the most pressure to win the Super Bowl this season?
It's not even close to be the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams had this offseason where it kind of became a running joke of curse word those picks. They just took all these picks and gave them away. And they had a good football team with a good quarterback in Jared Goff. And organizationally, they said, not good enough. We need to go get a difference maker at quarterback. And they took all those picks and decided we're going to trade Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford. And this offseason was about chasing down a Super Bowl. And then you watch this season start out and you're going, my goodness, this Rams team is amazing, how well they're playing offensively. And then they make the addition of a guy like Von Miller, who's a Super Bowl MVP. And then they make an addition with a guy like Sony Michel, who's played in a Super Bowl. And then they get a young running back like Cam Akers back. And now Odell Beckham, who they went and acquired with picks, looks pretty good. Excuse me, I think Odell was on waivers. Looks pretty good. And so I'm looking at this football team going, this is the football team that not only went all in the offseason, they went all in during the season as well. And the pressure that was to start the year because of that trade has only mounted with those 3 additions of Sony Michel and Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller. I get that there's a lot of pressure given what happened this offseason with the Green Bay Packers, but I don't think there's an organization, I don't think there's a head coach, and I don't think there's a quarterback under more pressure to go get to the Super Bowl and win it than there is in Los Angeles, and I think they're welcoming it.
I get where you're coming from, Dan, and me personally, I would love to see the Rams. It wouldn't bother me at all to see the Rams at SoFi for the Super Bowl. It wouldn't bother me. I mean, I like the team, and you know what? I'm an Odell Beckham Jr. fan. I'm a Von Miller fan.
Sure.
I'm damn sure I'm a big Jalen Ramsey fan.
Yeah.
I think he's an absolute stud, and I love his attitude. I mean, I remember when they lost the game to the 49ers. I saw him on that bench, had major attitude. I love that because,
no doubt,
you know, it's in reverse of what we talk about when we talk about the Cowboys. You're looking at the Rams, you're looking at Jalen Ramsey. You don't have to worry about Sean McVay holding somebody accountable. You know somebody like him is going to go in that locker room.
Good point.
Because that's just his personality. You can see it. So I love that. I just respectfully disagree with you because I think you're coming from an insider's perspective, and you're not wrong about it. But on the outside, from a perceptive standpoint, did any of us really expect coming into this season, despite all the changes the Rams had made, even with the acquisition of Matthew Stafford, we still said we expect Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers to be standing in his way. And when I think about the Packers, I say the most pressure's on them because the most pressure is on Aaron Rodgers. He's a bad man. He is something special. Deliberately lying about the being vaccinated, going to immunization. I'm immunized and all that stuff. But damn it, I still got a man crush on the brother. I just think he's sensational. I think as a talent, he is the greatest quarterback I have ever seen. It's just that simple to me. And the only reason I don't put Patrick Mahomes over him is because there's a sustained level of excellence
that
fair. Aaron Rodgers has at his disposal as opposed to just doing it for 2 or 3 years. The brother been doing it for more than 15. He's that spectacular to me. And so when I look at it from that perspective, the reigning league MVP, who's my vote to get the MVP again, not that I don't have it, and by the way, I was gone when this subject was broached. That dude that said I wouldn't vote for Aaron Rodgers because he's a jerk, he needs to have his card stripped. He doesn't. Not only does he need to be stripped of having a vote, he needs to be stripped. I'm not advocating firing, but he needs to be reassigned because as a reporter for 28 years, you have to have objectivity. How you personally feel about somebody has nothing to do with you critiquing what they do performance-wise. Their performance is their performance, and he should be ashamed of himself that he ever went at Aaron Rodgers like that. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely right. But I'm thinking about the running game with Dillon and Jones. I'm thinking about Devontae Adams being that stud. I'm thinking about Valdez-Scantling and Lazard and those boys and even a Randall Cobb. I'm thinking about a defense that's respectable. And I'm thinking about the fact that the last 3 years you've won 13 games. You are it's like 39-10 over the last 3 years, back-to-back NFC Championship game appearances. And since you won the Super Bowl in 2010, and you've been universally recognized as one of the elite quarterbacks this game has ever seen the entire time, you are 0-4 in NFC Championship games. This is Aaron Rodgers' year. He's got to get it done.
Stephen, I think you bring up good points. The last point I'll make is this. I think one organization still has a future. One organization is very much so up in question. Like the Rams have no picks. I don't think they have a first-round pick until 24. I think they only have a first 3-round. Yes. So the future and rebuilding your organization, it's now or never. Where the Packers have that, and whether you think Jordan Love's going to be good or not, he's still there.
I think my point usurps yours in this regard. All those things you just mentioned about the Rams don't eclipse the fact that this could be the last year for Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Because Jordan Love, he ain't. I hope he has a bright future, but I have no love for Love at this particular moment based on what I saw from him this season when he's been asserted in against Kansas City and the second half.
No, but I feel like this one, you guys both made strong arguments, but we're really splitting hairs because when we look at Aaron Rodgers, everything, the offseason, him at waterfalls, taking pictures, showing him on TV. Is he going to come back? Is he retiring? All the drama, the immunized, all that, et cetera. We saw what Tom Brady did. He wanted to get out of there, absolutely. And then, Dan, what you're saying, obviously the Rams went all in. I'd like to see either of these teams in the Super Bowl. We'll leave it on that note, gentlemen. When we come back to the NBA, Joel Embiid is making a run for MVP. But find out why Stephen A. says the Sixers are wasting his prime and what needs to happen. Plus, the Titans got the #1 spot in the AFC, and that was even after they lost Derrick Henry for most of the season. Good for them, but are they good enough to beat Joe Burrow in the Bengals attack? That debate rages on. This is First Take.
It's the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, and First Take will have the best of...
Well, this night of the NBA season took place Wednesday with plenty of notable performances. 26 players had 25-point game, tying the most in a day. That's in NBA history. 15 players had 30-point games, also tying the most in a day for NBA history. And I've got another most in the day for NBA history. 8 players with 30-point triple-doubles. One of those performances came from Joel Embiid, who dropped a 50-piece with 12 boards in 27 minutes in the 76ers win versus the Magic last night. Another big man who went off was the former MVP, the Joker, who almost had a 50-point triple-double, 49 points, 14 boards and 10 assists. The big man is back in the NBA, and these two are at the forefront. Monica McNutt, back here with us. Stephen A., which one of these bigs would you rather have, barring any injuries? Hold on. I need to stop saying your name fast. Monica McNutt. I read and talk so fast, and I'm stumbling over. And today it's going to stop.
Okay, I
do it
appreciate
too
that,
much.
Molly.
I know your name, and I'm sorry about it. The double M's trip me up.
I know you mean well. When I first got in the industry, I had a photographer that said, "Is that your real name, and are you going to change it?" And here we are. So I'm glad that you want to get it right.
Your name's cool. I just want to apologize that I keep doing that to you.
I happen to love your name.
Thank you,
There's
Stephen A.
another Monica McNuts. And I have no problem with it. And see, after nuts, the nuts, it just rolls off. I'm totally cool with it.
Okay, well, that's why you must make so much more money than me, okay?
No, not
Because
at
you
all.
can
Not
speak
at all.
properly
Not at
and
all.
I can't.
Not at all. Here's the deal. It's one of the hardest questions I've ever had to deal with here. But for me, it would be Embiid.
Okay.
Jokic is no joke. He's an MVP candidate. He is something special. He really, really is. He's a big boy that knows how to use it. All that pork, that pork. He knows how to use it. You understand?
You always hate on big men.
Listen, I'm just telling you. He just leans on people.
Yes, he does.
And I'm like this. He amazes me. He can't jump on a curb. He has no hops whatsoever. But you can't stop him. You can't stop him. He's phenomenal. And I'll give him credit for this. Even though they don't have Kawhi and Paul George, he did what he did against the Clippers. Joel Embiid dropped his 50 against an Orlando Magic team that has been atrocious for far too long. I mean, the only thing they got going for them is that Disney World is nearby. It's ridiculous how bad Orlando is. I'm getting sick of them being so damn awful. But that's a different subject for another day. I'm an Embiid guy because I think his abilities translate to the players. I'm not talking about numbers because I know Jokic is going to give you the same number.
Got it.
But for example, when I knew the Lakers was going to win in the bubble, it's because I said they got Anthony Davis. And as big time as Jokic is, the athleticism that Anthony Davis has over him is going to be problematic if Anthony Davis focuses on the defensive end. Ain't no answer for Embiid other than health. If he's hobbled, he's hobbled, which is a problem because Jokic is more durable than him. And in that regard, that's hands down is Jokic. But what I'm saying to you is Embiid's abilities, when he brings it to the table, his athleticism that goes along with his game and the damage he can do, me personally, is just a preference. I would roll with Embiid.
You know, Stephen A., this was a very difficult question. I admonish. A shout out to our producers. They did a great job with this one. I
asked it, but
Jokic.
thanks, guys.
Oh, Molly, this is a great question.
Thanks.
This is a great question, Molly.
Yeah, I didn't know it was them.
I am going with Jokic.
Okay.
And it's the slightest parsing of hairs. It's the assists for me. It's the assists. It's the 7 assists per ball game. It is the pass through the double team across court to Aaron Gordon last night. It is his poise and his ability to make the guys around him better. Not that Joel doesn't, but I'm making you better in that I'm also going to put the ball squarely in your shooter's pocket so that you might pull up and knock down the shot.
Right.
And so I think you're right when we talk playoffs, but I do think the experience that he has to this point and the new fitness level, right, is going to make a difference this year.
Let me tell you where I disagree with you.
Okay, come on, let's go.
I got you with this. You're right about what you're saying about you. But Jamal Murray, for example, if I'm kicking it out and I'm throwing it to him, I'm good. Because that brother, so I can't wait till he gets back. I miss Jamal Murray so much.
Yes.
I really, really do. Because we know he elevates Denver to title contender status, okay? But there's other dudes that you might throw to that ain't gonna get it done. And at some point it comes down to you. And when I think about Joel Embiid, even though Tobias Harris not shooting good from the 3, but shooting good for 46% from the field, Seth Curry, do you know he's shooting 41% from three-point range this year? And oh, by the way, that's the worst of his career. In all 6 years that he's been receiving playing time in the league, most of the time he's shooting 45% from 3.
Okay.
1 year he shot 42% from 3. This is his worst three-point shooting year, and he's at 41%. Seth Curry can shoot the damn basketball. But what I'm saying is at some point in time, come playoff time, you know this.
Yes, this is
you know your basketball. You give it to them, and you say, take me there. You take me there. And what I'm saying to you is, when I think about the athleticism that Joel Embiid has to go along with his game, again, Jokic is going to be Jokic. He's going to do damage, get his numbers. He's more trustworthy durability-wise. I understand it. But when I got to think about athleticism when it comes to the postseason because I think that's going to be called upon. And It's my hair, but I'm just an Embiid guy.
Here's my one concern to counter your athleticism.
Okay.
My favorite players, and what we're saying with Ja Morant, who's been a big topic of conversation, have the ability to slow the game down, right?
Yes.
Last night, Joel Embiid got to every single spot he wanted to do in fine and efficient fashion. I am not 100% sure.
He could do that every night.
No. I am not 100% sure I trust his decision making because he has been so successful. I'm not 100% sure he won't have it in his mind that it's mine to do and run into a double team and it's the bad news bears.
Breaking news. This doesn't happen. I guess me being influenced by the ladies, what can I say? I have a soft
get you some white boots.
Because I have to tell you. I mean, that's a damn good argument, Monica. Because his decision making does not compare to Jokic.
At all.
Does not compare to Jokic. Jokic's decision making is head and shoulders above. No doubt about that.
Since she just won that and owned you, can I move on?
Because
I have another fantastic
I mean, you use the word own to be disrespectful. See, that's the classlessness right there. That's why Carmen, my sister's going to get you. That's why it's because of stuff like that. But you got me there. I modify my thinking to such a degree. I'm willing to do that for Monica. Not for any of the fellas. Not for any of the fellas. But for you, I'll do that. For you, I'll do that. Okay, that's right. That's right.
Classless, something I've never been called.
No.
Not you,
There's
everything.
The own word was classless, not you.
Cool.
The word you directed at me. See how you got compartmentalized?
Okay, come on. Guess what? I'll remember.
Why would you sensitive?
All right, let's go to Joel Embiid, he's having a career year. He's averaging 28 points, 10 boards, 4 assists, and 1 block a game. Stephen, I'll ask you this. Are the Sixers wasting his talent by not pulling the trigger on Ben Simmons?
Absolutely. And I don't think that Doc Rivers can say that. I haven't spoken to him, but I'm pretty sure he's feeling that way. I'm a fan of Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey, to me, did a damn good job in Houston. He didn't win the chip, but he was knocking at the door. He really, really went for it, but the Golden State Warriors were standing in his way, along with a few other teams. But I'm a fan of his. I've known Daryl Morey for a very, very long time. I'm very fond of him. You got to pull the trigger, man, because Joel Embiid's health isn't guaranteed. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to do it for anything. That's not where I'm going. What I'm saying is you've had ample time. Ben Simmons let you know over the summer he wanted out. I understand this commitment not to lose him for 20 cents on the dollar. I totally get all of that. I'm saying you Daryl freaking Morey.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm not saying trade him for 20 cents on the dollar. I'm saying since July, you've had all of this time. Joel Embiid has one impediment above all else, and that's his durability. His health has been a question mark. He didn't play the first 2 years after he was drafted because of his foot, for crying out loud.
Right.
He's missed a slew of games over the years because of health issues. Missed games last year because of health issues. We know when he's healthy, he's a monster. He's big time. You got him playing Joel Embiid right now because Kevin Durant got hurt and Steph has slid. Joel Embiid is my MVP.
Oh, wow.
He's my MVP right now. I'm like, he's averaging 28 and 10. He's averaging 20 and shoot 49% from the field. And then without Ben Simmons, with all of those distractions, Ben Simmons when Ben Simmons took his position, Joel Embiid stood up in front of Philadelphia, where I worked for 17 years. It's a second home to me, and I love that city. I love what it represents, and I'm telling you, for him to stand up and say, y'all ain't got nothing to worry about.
Okay, so
I got this.
All right, Stephen.
And then perform this way, you're wasting it. Because you don't know how healthy you're going to be, Monica.
I hear you. Before I answer, let me ask you what you make of the reports that came out this week that he said, Joel Embiid said that it is not urgent or pressing to make a move to add a piece.
He's lying.
Okay, so that's what I thought too.
He's lying.
Just wanted to hear from you. I am not ready to say that it's being wasted because while Joel has grown in front of our eyes as a player, as a man, I think that he's enjoying being the guy. And I think...
Well, he's always been the guy. Stop it, Monica.
He should.
Stop it.
He should, but there was always a conversation about...
No, it was never.
Stephen A., come on now.
No, the conversation was, could Ben Simmons accept the fact he ain't the guy because Joel Embiid is the guy? It wasn't a debate about who's the guy.
So the conversation has been quelled, and now he's it, right? I think, and I know that you can't pull regular season games as if it's going to be the end-all, be-all, but I think back to their performance versus the Warriors, where he led that team to that victory in Philly when the Warriors came to town. to me, there is a formula here for these guys to be serious contenders without making this trade right now. It's a very small window,
Monica.
But I do just hear me out, Stephen A. Think about the dominance.
I'm very worried about you right now.
Listen,
I'm very worried about you right now.
The dominance that Joel has been playing with, you got one of the best three-point shooters in the league. If Tobias Harris continues to unlock to that next level, I think Tyrese Maxey is coming along fine. Now the issue is it's going to be a very, very small room for error. But I think that this Philly team could still make some noise. And again, you knock on wood, we want to see all our players healthy, and I know Joel has struggled with health, but we still got to see how things are going to shake out in terms of folks being healthy in the East. I'm just saying.
Monica.
It's not too far-fetched.
Monica, stop it.
I'm just saying.
Listen, the Philadelphia 76ers, without making a move, are going home in the second round. Doc Rivers.
Where do you think they could finish?
I've known these people for years. Doc Rivers, Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, Michael Rubin, Josh Harris, everybody. Y'all going home in the second round without making a move. You can't leave this team as currently constructed, and that's going to the conference finals with Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Miami in the conference. You can't do it. You cannot do it. It will not happen. They're going home. They're going home.
Very small room for error. All I'm saying is, in the playoffs, if Joel is on one of these, right, but listen, if he's on one of these dominant stretches, Seth is shooting the ball, basketball very well, I'm just saying I would not rule it out. We have seen stranger things happen in sports, is all I'm saying.
So your argument is strange things. That's a show you know.
No.
That's a show you know.
Strange things happen in sports. You're not going to make me apologize.
Strange things.
Stranger things.
Strange things.
Don't try to be hip. Don't try to act like you know about strange.
I just don't think it's
my daughter's telling me about it. I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, what is that? What is that? Stranger things. So not strange things. Stranger things. My bad. I didn't know.
Hold on. Wait, I got to say one thing. You know those progressive commercials?
Yeah.
You just had a progressive moment.
I just had a progressive moment. Okay, thank you very much. They should call me. I tell you this, they should call me instead of Baker Mayfield. At least I'm winning. The point that I'm trying to make, he's not winning. He's not winning. He's not winning.
I'm talking about where they have the senior moment.
But he's not winning.
You just had a senior moment. We're going to break.
I'm just saying.
You need to stop.
I don't think it's as far-fetched as everybody else says. Okay.
I mean, we're going to commercial.
It's not ideal.